The Mule is a 2018 movie based on a true story about a 90-year-old horticulturist and Korean War veteran who is caught transporting $3 million worth of cocaine for the drug cartel. This movie is directed by Clint Eastwood, who is pushing 90 years old. He's actually 88. And he's playing a 90-year-old in this movie, so it totally does work. He fits the main character. But he looks super old, like Clint Eastwood's age is really showing. Now, Clint Eastwood directed this, and this is actually his 37th directorial movie. This dude has directed tons of films. Some of his really good ones that he directed were Sully, American Sniper, $1 Million Baby, as well as Gran Torino. And I feel The Mule is the closest spiritual successor to Gran Torino. It is really close to that film. It even has the same writer, Nick Schenk, who also wrote that movie. And in both movies, Clint Eastwood is kind of like this crotchety old man who is put in this kind of situation dealing with maybe nefarious people. So if you like Gran Torino, this movie is very close to that. Now, this movie stars Clint Eastwood. It also has Bradley Cooper as this DEA agent, and he's pretty one-dimensional, this character. Basically, this DEA agent just wants to do his job really well, and there's not much more to him than that. His partner is Michael Peña, and Laurence Fishburne is Bradley Cooper's sort of boss in the movie. We have Dianne Wiest as Clint Eastwood's ex-wife in the movie, who is very estranged from her husband, doesn't really talk to him that much, kind of hates him because of all the ways that the husband has let her down and disappointed her over the years. Throughout the film, though, they start kind of getting back together maybe and working out their differences, and they have some really good emotional moments between her and Clint Eastwood. So I really like this relationship in the film. We also have Allison Eastwood, who is Clint Eastwood's daughter in real life, and she plays his daughter in the movie, and she hates Clint Eastwood in the movie. They haven't talked for a decade after Clint Eastwood's character missed her own wedding. So most of the movie, this Allison Eastwood, she's basically just frowning and being disappointed and not talking to her father, and that's pretty much it. Not really much coming from her. Her daughter in the movie, so Clint Eastwood's granddaughter in the film, is played by Taissa Farmiga, and I thought she was pretty good. She is like the one character that's still kind of on her grandpa's side and is still rooting for him and still really likes him and wants him to do well, and I thought she did a pretty good job. We also have Andy Garcia as this very kind of flamboyant cartel drug leader. He's often has a golden rifle, and he's at this shooting range doing skeet shooting and shooting, those discs that fly and cracking jokes and smoking his cigar. He was maybe a little bit too flamboyant, too much played for laughs, but I still had a fun time with it and seeing him in the movie, but maybe he was a little out of place. Now, this movie is based on a true story, based on an article written by Sam Dolnick from the New York Times Magazine. Title of the article was The Sinaloa's Cartel's 90-Year-Old Drug Mule. And if you look at the picture of this guy in real life, I can totally see that comparison to Clint Eastwood. Totally believable. On to some of the positives in this film. I really dug the story of this 90-year-old guy who's lived this very straight lifestyle, all of a sudden getting mixed up with the Mexican cartel and transporting all of these drugs. Really fun, and for a guy who is not really involved in crime, he is so cool as a cucumber most of the time. We have some very tense interactions where the police maybe kind of are onto him, but they never believed that this 90-year-old man would be in this nefarious situation, so it's a lot of interesting scenes there. We see Clint Eastwood's character mix it up with all these Latin cartel members, and he is fitting right in, and he is befriending all of them, and we see some really fun interactions with that, of them getting along. We see Clint Eastwood often singing along to the radio and on his long journeys, and he's just so carefree and so fun-loving and just a fun character to throw into the mix. As the movie starts progressing and problems with the cartel start arising and the DEA starts closing in, everything starts getting more and more intense, and that intensity is highly thrilling. But we also have all of these personal family interactions between Clint Eastwood and his estranged wife and daughter, and him sort of mending that relationship and balancing that between all of these cartel missions he is on. Really exciting stuff for a large part of this movie. On to some of the negatives of this movie. One is that they keep trying to justify Clint Eastwood's character's actions and say that, oh, it's okay that he's being this drug mule and transporting all these drugs. It's okay because he's only doing it to pay for his granddaughter's wedding. He's only doing it because the Veterans Hall in his hometown burnt down and he's trying to pay to fix it up. So I felt it was a little bit maybe of a reach sometimes, because this guy made lots and lots of money doing these drug runs. Let's not try to make him into some kind of hero. Also, there's this one point where Clint Eastwood's character goes down to Mexico to visit Anthony Garcia, and there's a lot of women in bikinis and very gratuitous ass shots, just zooming in on their butts. So it was maybe a little bit far-fetched, a little bit unnecessary as well. Now, I don't really want to get political. I don't want to talk about Democrats, Republicans, left-wing, right-wing, but a lot of people are talking about it in this film and how the PC language in this movie and the kind of xenophobia that Clint Eastwood's character kind of portrays is depicted in this film. So Clint Eastwood has spent a lot of his career talking about political correctness and rallying against it, and he just believes that people should be allowed to say whatever they feel and use whatever language they want. He comes from a certain era and a time period in America where using certain racial slurs was okay. And in this movie, he calls black people Negroes. He calls a lot of the Latinos in the movie beaners, and he throws around a lot of this language. Now, in a movie like Gran Torino, where that was a large part of the character and very kind of important for that role, it really kind of worked and it really kind of made sense. Where in this film, it seems kind of a little out of place and maybe not really necessary for the character to be speaking this way. But I couldn't help feel that Clint Eastwood just really wanted to have this character in the movie be like that, because that's what he personally believes, and it's kind of the political message that he personally is trying to get across, but maybe it's not really genuine to the movie. So I didn't really dig that. It didn't really bother me too much. I don't think I'm going to change my review score for it, but it was a little maybe out of place. Finally, I want to talk about the conclusion of this film. While it was okay and it kind of wrapped up not bad, I couldn't help wanting the drug cartels to have their comeuppance and kind of be taken down, and that's not exactly what happens in the end of this film. So it is maybe a little bit disappointing in that regard. Also, this movie is kind of a slow burn at times. While I did like it, some people may have wanted the plot to be sped up a little bit. But despite some of these things, I really did enjoy myself. It really did beckon back to Gran Torino. While not as good as Gran Torino, I still really enjoyed this film, and I do recommend it. I would give this film an 8 out of 10, and I think it is a pretty good time at the cinema and worth checking out.